It's past 7. We got sort of a filled room. We're not giving anything away. It's not like Oprah, but okay, this is the May 16th, 2024 regular village board meeting for the village of Glencoe. I call the meeting to order, and I'll ask the village manager to read a roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Here.
Trustee Listener.
Here.
Trustee Mialopoulos. Here. Trustee Underdunk.
Here.
Trustee Rubin.
Here.
Trustee Scott.
Here.
President Rowan.
Here. We are live streaming this meeting, and we'll also make the recording available on the village's YouTube channel following the conclusion of tonight's meeting. The next item on the agenda is consideration of minutes. The minutes for the meetings for the Board of Trustees and Committee of the Whole on April 18th and the Board of Trustees regular meeting on April 18th have been circulated to the board. They've been published to the community. Are there any comments on the minutes? And if not, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Is there? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
The motion carries. The minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is public comment, and the item after that is swearing in of a public safety lieutenant. Because there are a lot of people here, I'm not sure why they're here, but we could guess. And because our public safety folks who are here have had a long day, in case you don't know, we had the vice president here, we had a motorcade, we had Secret Service agents. There were a lot of public safety and police cars that probably looked unfamiliar because everybody in the public safety sphere in the vicinity was here helping. So what I'd like to do, and I'll ask for a motion on this, is to switch so we can get our swearing in done now and then go to the public comment. Is there a motion to switch the order to move the swearing in first?
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that carries. So the next item on the agenda is the swearing in of our Lieutenant Hubert Zekian. I apologize. My name is Rowan. It's spelled differently. It's wrong every time. I'll try to do better next time. I'll ask our Public Safety Director, Sean Loughran, to introduce Mr. Zekin.
Thank you very much. Before I begin to talk about Hubert, just wanted to give a little bit of information specifically to the board and to the number of attendees in regards to today's operation, and just speak as to how absolutely proud I am of all of our personnel that were involved, specifically how much leadership was shown both individually and collectively. We were alerted say probably 3 weeks ago, with the intent of the Vice President to be attending an event in our village. For everyone's background, it has been probably close to 20 years since we've had a dignitary of this level, of the stature of our nation, elect to visit while holding the office. With that said, the initial ask from Secret Service Protective Detail was a very minimal package, a very minimal protective package, meaning she would be in and out before anyone knew. That radically changed, I can say. That radically changed with a number of asks from Secret Service. As Secret Service always instructs everyone, always advises everyone, whenever they come into a township, they will take everything they can possibly take and then some, and leave you naked and bare, because they draw every single resource they can in their tasks. They bring very little with them often, and they heavily rely on local law enforcement, which we were absolutely happy and proud to rise to the occasion. We spent countless hours of meetings, planning meetings, contingency meetings, drafting orders, and ultimately asking for what is called an ILEAS, a mutual assistance request. This drew over a combined effort of, I would say, roughly 200 uniformed and non-uniformed police officers, and probably close to 100 Secret Service members, both sworn and civilian, to conduct this operation, with two locations, starting, of course, at O'Hare Airport, her second visit of the day, and then the entire caravan would make its way up here, including driving the wrong way on the expressway at one point, which has got to be pretty neat for some of the guys who were embedded actually in with the package, to the site on our lakefront, where they had an opportunity to meet with a number of our residents, and including had some one-on-one time with members of public safety as well, at which point they departed and we safely got her out of our village and back to the final destination. So I just wanted to report on that, and I apologize. There was some minor disruption of traffic, and I'm sure, I hope people understand we could not necessarily explain from the onset, from the beginning, who was coming to town, because as you may notice, whenever the vice president or the president arrives somewhere, it often comes with some detractors. So we wanted to make sure we did our best at all steps to make sure we could protect the village in all way, shape, or form. That said, absolutely no services were diminished. We made sure we could maintain and did maintain all EMS, fire, and police services in the village at the same time while asking for that assistance and receiving that assistance. So we were very, very grateful. So that said, let's get to the good stuff. So, Honorable President Rowan, village trustees, and village manager Crowley, thank you once again for the opportunity to introduce another wonderful member of the Glencoe Public Safety Team, Hubert Zekin. Hubert is joined here by his wife Julia in uniform, Father Roman, Mother Bernadetta, and father-in-law Greg Katsaros, I hope I got that right, and his sister Gabriella. The story of the Zekin family is a story we have all heard countless times, just with different last names. It is the American dream. Native to Poland, the Zekin family emigrated to the Belmont Central neighborhood in 1996 in Chicago with 4-year-old Hubert, seeking a better life in the United States. Speaking the Polish language in the home provided Hubert with the ability to not only become bilingual, but retain personal pride of Polish culture as he grew to adulthood. Zekin, in fact, translates from Polish to mean dean, or specifically chief clergyman in the Catholic Church, according to Google. So I don't speak Polish. The Zekins later were blessed with a daughter, Gabriella, and son, Matthew. After the Neuqua Valley High School graduation, Hubert attended Lewis University in Romeoville, go Flyers, to earn his Bachelor of the Arts in Criminal Justice and Social Justice, having graduated in 2015. And that same year, he attended the Cook County Sheriff's Academy with his future wife, Julia. As you see, Julia was hired by the Clarendon Hills Police Department, as represented by her uniform tonight, and Hubert at that time was working for the Posen Police Department. Now I can speak, as several of you know, as being married to a police sergeant. That is, you never want to directly work with your wife because you'll never decide where you get to go to work, or go to eat, for that matter. So you did well by starting at a different agency. In Clarendon Hills, Julia serves in a number of roles for the department, to include being a member of the DuPage County Digital Forensics Task Force. Every agency in the United States has learned that no prosecutor will secure convictions in a court of law without crucial electronic evidence as gathered by similar teams. Julia makes that happen. And Glencoe is no different, as we ruthlessly utilize technology in a similar fashion to capture our bad guys. And we'll discuss that later on, or you'll hear briefly about that. While in Posen, Hubert served both in uniform patrol and as an investigator. He later saw the light and came on board with Glencoe. Glencoe Public Safety in January of 2018. Between his two departments, he became qualified as a breath tech, an evidence tech, a field training officer, juvenile officer, a lead homicide investigator, firefighter, paramedic, SWAT officer, and as an instructor. Lastly, Hubert continues to demonstrate his ability for long-term planning as the president of the Police Pension Board. Due to these combined skills, his training, and positive attitude, I have no doubt that Hubert will succeed in the role of lieutenant. Now, bringing the total number of lieutenants to 8, public safety has now the ability to restructure a portion of the organizational structure. This will allow for increased safety, decreased liability, and more effective management of investigations. Another lieutenant has been moved out of the regular rotation of lieutenants and assigned to a new role with the department as an investigations lieutenant. In this role, he will manage the day-to-day operations of the follow-up of criminal and fire investigations, family service referrals, and administrative operations and support. This structure more closely aligns to other similarly sized agencies in surrounding municipalities. His schedule will overlap the 2 watches, allowing for more seamless coordination between teams, and he's also absorbing some administrative duties. This will allow lieutenants like Hubert access to more freedom for mentoring, direct leadership, and field duties. As previously noted in conversation with few of you, 42% of our department has turned over in recent years, including my own position. if you call 911 in Glencoe, there is a pretty good chance you're going to get somebody who's new to the profession or new to the village. So that's nothing unusual in this profession, as generations are replaced by new members over time. But when considering this fact, we need to provide those new employees with as much opportunity for support through our talented lieutenants. Hubert's promotion represents this first step to organizational change, providing the pathway for just that. By merit, Hubert has earned the gold bars on his collar. He stands here tonight with the blessing of the Public Safety Commission. I assure you, he will demonstrate how much he deserves that important step daily. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you our newest Public Safety Lieutenant, Hubert Zekin, badge number 660. So while Hubert's up for the oath of office, I certainly hope you can be joined by all the family members who came to support. Come on up. Don't be shy. Don't be scared. So immediately after we take the oath of office and some photographs, they'll be allowed to have cake, and we'll continue with our business. If you would, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Hubert Zekin,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the ordinances of the Village of Glencoe,
and the ordinances of the Village of Glencoe,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the position of Public Safety Lieutenant
the duties of the position of Public Safety Lieutenant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability. Congratulations.
Oh, it's up to you. Yeah, please. And ladies and gentlemen, if you can note by the number of officers who stayed late, just to see, he's not really well liked.
And you don't get to leave yet. I have one opportunity at the microphone to do this very infrequently, and when I get that chance, I always like to take it. Lieutenant Zekin, thank you for taking on this responsibility. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for doing what you do and what you've done for us since you started with us in 2018. To your family, thank you for sharing him with us. We recognize the sacrifices that means for the time that you get to spend with him, and we're grateful. And I say that as a community, not just myself, for the work that he does every day. I gotta say, today was one of those days that I could not have been more proud of this community. One of the most complex logistical nightmares, if you will, or opportunities, if you will, to ensure that the Vice President of the United States, who was in our community for a relatively short period of time, would be safe, that we would transport and ensure that she was going to be able to do the business that she was here to do. And all of you standing in the room, and those of you that were supportive of that effort, I could not have been more proud. I had the opportunity to stand with Hubert at Maple Hill and Sheridan, waiting for the motorcade to pass through. It was just one of those moments where I was proud not only to be the village manager of a community like this, I was proud to be an American. And as we swear oaths of office, and we swear to uphold the Constitution and the strength of that document, it was a really proud day for me. And I'm glad we got to do this on the same day, because it just it carries so much weight and so much opportunity. But to the whole department, again, don't have the opportunity to say this out loud publicly, and I love the fact that all these people showed up to hear me do it. Thank you for what you do every day. Thank you for the work. Thank you for the dedication, the sacrifice, and thank you for just making Glencoe the place that we all love so much. It truly is because of public safety. Thank you all.
So don't go yet. Don't go yet. Let me just say, on behalf of the board and me, what he said, plus we just had a presentation from our strategic plan consultant who did a survey of village residents. And, you know, I think we all swooned at what she found our village residents said about our public safety officers. We could not be more proud. We could not be luckier than what you've done. So, you know, Officer Zekin's been here, so he knows that in Glencoe, the public safety officer is your friend, and now Lieutenant Zekin can make sure that everybody working in the department maintains what you have delivered for all these years going forward. So congratulations, thank you. We feel very lucky that you're here. Okay. So, the next item on the agenda, we don't get cake, is public comment. This is where we allow members of the public to address the village board on a topic that's within our purview and jurisdiction, but is not listed in another location on the agenda. If you'd like to speak about a matter that is listed on the agenda, we ask you to wait until that agenda item is called, and we'll give you an opportunity to speak then. If your matter is on the consent agenda, let us know if you'd like to have it removed so that you can talk about it. Anyone wanting to speak should fill out a written speaker form, which is at the back of the boardroom, and submit it to the village manager. So this public comment time is intended as an opportunity for you to make comments to the village board. We'll listen to everything you say, but this is not ordinarily a time for discussion or engagement by us. If appropriate, we may direct the village manager or other village staff to respond to questions or issues raised at a later date. We may choose to talk about it, but we may not. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. To be fair to all, we're going to strictly enforce this rule. The maximum time allocated for public comment is 30 minutes, unless determined otherwise by the presiding officer prior to commencement of public comment time, which hasn't happened. If all persons wanting to speak during public comment time are not able to do so within the time limit, then the presiding officer, again, that's me, may either extend the time allocated or allow continuation of public comment after completion of the other items on the agenda. We'll ask that all speakers be respectful, civil, and not repetitive, and we ask that all members of the audience refrain from applauding or making any other comments during or after any speaker. So with that, is there anyone who wants to make a public comment about an item not on the agenda?
Did you receive any speaker forms?
So we haven't gotten any forms, but come on up. Tell us who you are. And then we'll start your 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Catherine Berger. I did fill out the form, but perhaps didn't make its way.
It's making its way up now. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Catherine.
I'm Catherine Berger. I live in Precinct 1, 835 Green Lake Avenue. Hello, friends and neighbors. Village Board. Hello. You're here.
Did that microphone get turned on? Hold on.
Here, start her over.
Thank you. That one sounds like it's working. Okay, awesome. Thank you. My name is Catherine Berger, and I've been a resident of Glencoe for 4 years. I'm a private citizen. I have no affiliation to Glencoe Village communities or commissions. I'd like to spend a few minutes this evening sharing my support and iterating the importance of our Glencoe Council for Inclusion and Community. I am one of the members of the LGBTQ plus community that call Glencoe home. Sorry, this is a little bit personal. I must admit, I had serious concerns about what the suburbs would hold for my Jewish two-mom family. But we fled the city during COVID lockdown with our new-boarded toe, nonetheless. I slowly let my guard down as we ran across the Inclusion Council at a community event. We were subsequently welcomed wholeheartedly by neighbors who are now friends. I saw pride flags flank the town in June. A sigh of relief. I met friends whose children were navigating their sexual or gender identities. Open discourse ensued, and I was pleased, proud, to have become the representation I did not have as a child. I even met other members of the LGBTQ plus community. We bonded over navigating raising families in a heteronormative world. This environment is a direct result of the Inclusion Council, creating a place where all who work and live here feel welcome. The Inclusion Council creates an environment of acceptance. It is a selling point for Glencoe. It promotes a more diverse village. It makes me proud to be a part of this town and confident to send my kids to our schools, knowing they'll be safe and accepted. I must admit, I've taken the work for the council and of this community for granted. When I read and heard about some of the activities in some of the Inclusion Council events and meetings, a familiar feeling of dread and fear crept into my stomach. It is why I feel very compelled to be here today. You see, I was raised in a military family. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was only repealed in 2010. LGBTQ plus identities were erased and even punished by our government. I have seen the results of a lack of inclusion efforts firsthand. I want better for my community. Of course, the work of the Inclusion Council extends far beyond supporting diverse family structures like mine. The dedicated efforts of the volunteers that make up the Glencoe Council for Inclusion and Community and the citizens that embrace those values have made Glencoe especially welcoming and a diverse community. My ask of you today is to support the GCIC and the values that they promote in your actions, in your interactions, in your attendance to events, and most importantly, my fellow citizens and how you vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, let's try, regardless of how you feel, please try not to applaud or boo or anything like that. Okay, anybody else? I should. Oh, are you Jennifer?
Yes.
Then I didn't flunk. That was great.
Hello.
Tell us who you are, and then don't start yet. Go.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Jennifer Rappaport. I've been a resident of Glencoe for under 3 years. I was attracted to move here from out of state because of the wonderful reputation of Glencoe as a diverse and open community here in the North Shore. I'm coming here tonight because I become aware of some uncivil behavior that's happened in a previous meeting, as well as some subsequent personal attacks of leaders in the community who I have found to be of the highest intentions and the best intentions. I support all of the hard work of the volunteers, of all of you, that make Glencoe what it is, something that many of us may take for granted, about the energy and hard work it takes to smoothly run a village like ours. I also will echo the Glencoe Council for Inclusion and Community is an important institution to uphold. While any community can provide a space for dissenting views, I want it to be noted that we have to uphold the highest amount of civility to maintain a high level of this community that we have come to appreciate. And I want it to be noted that I am noticing that there are individuals here who I think should be on watch. So I want to thank all of you for the service that you give back to Glencoe. Thank you.
Thank you very very much. Okay, the next person who signed up, Dave Fielder. Come on up, and even though I said your name, say it again, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Dave Fielder. I've also been a resident of Glencoe for about 4 years. And I also want to speak in support and appreciation for the council. I can't do it as powerful as our two other neighbors have done it. Like I said, I've only been a resident for about 4 years, but I've kind of become a amateur student of Glencoe's history. I know the council has existed in some kind of iteration for several decades. I do know that Glencoe, while not perfect, we're not perfect here, but I do know that particularly relative to other North Shore communities, it has a reputation, well-deserved reputation that we should all be proud of for openness and acceptance of a lot of different kinds of groups. And that is probably one of the top 10 things that make this such an idyllic community to live in. And so I personal view is that the council is both a symptom of that, its existence and its work is both a symptom of that fine history, but it's also a cause of it. And so I think that anything that the residents can do, that the trustees can do to continue to support the council would be to the benefit of all of us in all groups. I also do want to say that I'm personally disturbed by what transpired last week. I know that particularly after the meeting was adjourned, there were, hardworking individuals doing their public service who were accosted, made to feel at best uncomfortable, if not outright intimidated and fearful. And that's just got no place in this discourse. I know diversity and inclusion issues sometimes are complicated, and reasonable people can sometimes differ or whatever, but there's no excuse for that kind of lack of civility. And I feel really bad for the members of the council that experienced that. And I just want to voice my appreciation for their service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker, if he chooses, Rafael Guzman, who says he's speaking in behalf of a group or organization. So tell us your name and your organization.
Hi, good afternoon or evening. My name is Rafael Guzman. I am the chair of the Glencoe Council for Inclusion and Community. I am here today, for those that didn't know who I am, put a face in the organization, it's right here. This organization has been around in Glencoe for several decades. We are a volunteer council of Glencoe residents whose goal is to make the village a more welcoming and inclusive village. By doing that, we're trying to create a more streamlined system. Subcommittees. We meet once a month because we have other responsibilities. Kids. We try to get in and out of the meeting as soon as possible. So subcommittees such as the social subcommittee, community outreach, community relations. We meet outside, come here once a month, present our facts to get results and get it done efficiently. Our goal is to make it as welcoming and inclusive. How do we do that? January 31st, 2023, we did a presentation of the importance of a welcoming and inclusive community as told from the perspective of an Afghan and Soviet refugee. These people came in and told us their experience of what it was like leaving their country, coming to the United States, and starting over. Why is that important? Maybe someone doesn't have that perspective. Maybe you could hear that and try to find an understanding. What can I do, or how can I volunteer to make someone more welcome in the community? On February 8th of 2002, we had another presentation, Understanding Disability Ability, moving toward a more aware and inclusive community for all. This was done over Zoom. And what we had was we have a panel of 4, 3 of them with disabilities speaking of how they live their lives with this disability. Why? So that way you can get a perspective of someone who has the difficulty with a disability of having to walk up the 3 steps at some of the stores here in downtown Glencoe. I'm sorry, uptown for the long-time residents, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
This is what we are not. Oh, I'm sorry. The other thing that we tried was we tried to pass out popsicles at the beach, but we went on the day in the summer where it was 63 degrees and cloudy, so no one took a single popsicle. So, but again, the point of it is something fun, inclusive. Here's what we are not. We are not a DEI council committee. We are not a committee that has the authority to hire consultants, agencies, or any entity involving village business. We are an advisory council to this board right here. We meet with the goal of trying to make it welcoming, inclusive, friendly. We invite discord. We invite discussion. We invite open, moderate, and civil debate. But what we are not is going to allow misrepresentation of who we are, what we do, by putting labels on us. We meet the first Wednesday of every month. Come through. It's downstairs in the basement. We're bringing snacks from now on, cookies and drinks. Come and listen to who we are and make your own decision as to what we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, please don't. Not personal. Okay, the next speaker on the list is Julie Feldman.
I'm sorry. I thought I was citing in attendance.
So no, Julie, don't apologize.
We should get civic participation
Do not
badges.
apologize. Brevity is the source of all speaker points. Clearly, very excellent speeches so far. Yours was the best. Okay. Jackie Guzman.
Fancy. So I don't have anything prepared, but I
Tell us your name first,
Oh,
and then
yes.
we'll start
Oh,
the
sorry.
clock.
Jackie Guzman. I've been here since 2015. Precinct 5. My husband just had to tell me that too, so sorry. This is very timely. Oh, wow, that got real loud. Because there's been a lot of events happening over the last, call it 2 weeks, that sort of are culminating. And I found it really fascinating because I actually have a personal connection in some way to the individuals that were just here. I have family in Posen. My family's in Romeoville. I grew up in Bolingbrook. I come from the South Side. When we moved here, my whole entire family was like, what are you doing? Why would you move somewhere where you have no connections? And what we chose was community. We wanted a community where people would have discussions, disagreements, and in a recent part of the strategic planning I got to participate in, we all agreed people are neighborly, people care. That is not common. And I listed off some of the other locations because having had experiences growing up in other places, that's not always embraced or accepted. Glencoe is a very specific town with a rich history, whether it's the Women's Library Club, which goes over 150 years, this town, which goes over 150 years, the Historical Society, the Black Church, Amshalom, you name it. Even the Glencoe Council for Inclusion and Community goes back well over 50 years. To see it being disrupted, I think degrades the brand of Glencoe, degrades the mission of community, and also is a disrespect to the board, to the citizens, and to the people who genuinely want to make the community a better place. I would hope the board understands that discourse and civil engagement is commonplace, but doing it in a way that is productive. Unproductive leads to a lot more problems, and some of that has started to emerge, particularly in the grade schools, where I have a child right now. So my ask of the board is to try to uphold and continue to support the council, but more importantly, continue to uphold the brand of what is Glencoe and support the community and support the brand of being neighborly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next speaker, should he choose, is Boris Rappaport.
Thank you.
And we'll start, you have to say your name again, and we'll start your 3
Yeah,
minutes.
my name is Boris Rappaport. Been a Glencoe resident for almost 3 years. We live on Longwood. I just wanted to echo my support for the board and all the time and commitment you individually volunteer to make our village a better place, and support for the council. But, you know, more importantly, I just wanted to say that, you know, civility is really important. We're a really small village. People can disagree. people can disagree on the importance of diversity inclusion, even on the purpose of the council. What you can't disagree with is all of you are volunteering your time to make our village a better place. And I was really disturbed to hear about some of the events of the past week and even weeks because it degrades civility. And I think it degrades the nature of our village and our community. And I think it's important for all of us to speak out against that. I'm not normally one to speak out on issues of controversy. And I would also observe that, look, this is not the United States Congress. This is not the place to litigate, you know, macro issues of the world or grandstand. This is not Facebook. We are a village, we're a community, we're really small. This is why my wife and our kids moved here, because we feel that the fabric of the community and the sort of neighborly spirit is really what's important. So let's not lose track of that. Let's be vigilant and not let individuals sort of drag us down into this kind of cycle of incivility. So with that,
Thank you very much. That is the end of the sign-up sheet. Is there anybody else who wants to speak about an item not on our agenda? Okay. Well, thank you very much for the people who came. We appreciate it. We do a better job when we hear from our residents, and we very much appreciate residents talking about civility and engaging in a civil manner. So thanks very much. All right, the next item on the agenda for our meeting, and you, by the way, you're not required to stay. We're not going to be offended. You're welcome to for Civics 101, but it might be a little boring. Next item on the agenda is reports of committees. The first committee is the Committee of the Whole. We had that just a few minutes ago. We talked about two things. One, we had a presentation by our strategic planning consultant who gave us a report on how Glencoe was doing and what she and the village will be doing as we develop our strategic plan. As I briefly mentioned before, when we promoted a Lieutenant Zekin, our strategic planning consultant did surveys of the employees, the residents. It was unbelievably positive to the point where if I didn't know it was legit, I would have thought it was Soviet. So, and I think the credit for that goes to our village manager and the village staff that works for him. A lot of what she said was that our employees want to be here, and as a result of that, our residents get good services. Second thing we talked about was home rule. As you know, and the village board has previously announced, we're actively looking at putting a referendum on the ballot. It would be either, if we do it, it would be either in November or next April. The referendum would be to consider converting from a non-home rule to a home rule community, and we talked about that. So that's my report of the Committee of the Whole. Next report is the Finance Committee. Trustee Rubin is the chair of that.
Thank you. At Tuesday's Finance Committee meeting, the committee discussed the monthly financial reports for the month of April, and it's the end of April. Our general fund revenue performance for a number of our revenue sources exceeded our monthly budget targets and prior year receipts, including places for heating tax, telecommunication tax, parking fees, and vehicle license. However, we discussed that sales taxes are trending down. That has been the general trend for a year or so. And we also have continued concerns about the governor's state budget proposal to eliminate the grocery tax, which, as we mentioned before, could cost our little community a couple $100,000 a year if he goes through with that. The good news is, it seems like Cook County will get the second installment of property tax bills out on time. That may not be what you all sitting there want to hear, but from this side of the fence, that's a good thing. Expenditures in all funds are within our budgetary targets on expenditures, and staff reported that the first installment of our debt payments are due in June and are therefore on tonight's agenda for approval. In addition, we discussed rebalancing the village's investment portfolio to ensure compliance with our own investment policies. And we reported that, good news, we've been so successful in earning interest on our bond proceeds, the village may need to pay a tax on a portion of that interest, known as the arbitrage issue. This is the first time that's happened to us in 10 years, more than 10 years. And staff will report out more on that as we get more details. Lastly, the committee also discussed several capital items that are on tonight's agenda and changes to timelines for several other capital items, including bridge maintenance and water main replacements. Thank you.
Thanks very much. The next report is the report of the Plan Commission, and Trustee Listner is the village board representative on the Plan Commission.
Thank you very much. The Plan Commission met on April 24th. The first item on our agenda was the exterior appearance review of proposed signage and awnings at 682 Vernon Avenue. This is in the Winnicke's building, where Wells Fargo is going to be moving in, and their signage and awnings were approved. Then we also talked about the comprehensive plan. At this point, we are reaching back out to the boards and commissions, kind of the advisory bodies that we had initially spoken to when we did start working on the plan. We wanted to show them the draft of where we're at, and so that is what we're going to be doing over the next couple of months. And then, we're planning to get an online version of this draft document also available for everybody to see. And we're also planning then sometime this summer to do some public outreach to the residents, again, to talk about where we're at in terms of the draft plan, to get their reactions and opinions before we do finalize that plan. And we're going to have our next meeting in June.
Thank you very much for that report. The next committee to report is the Golf Advisory Committee, and Trustee Hallwax is our representative on that.
Thank you. April was a great month for golf. We were over 1,000 rounds over budget. This resulted in revenues exceeding budget by 96%. The subcommittee of the Friends of the Glencoe Golf Club have been planning community events for this year. These include a National Croquet Day celebration, the Bio Blitz, stargazing, and a goodbye to the clubhouse with a family demolition event, allowing kids to draw on the interior of the clubhouse before it is torn down. The clubhouse project has just completed the design development phase of the project and is moving to construction document phase. Staff is working to finalize the interior design and the schedule for construction.
Okay, thanks for that report. The next report is our Sustainability Task Force. Trustee Bihalopoulos is our representative on that. So, Georgia, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. The STF held its Donate and Recycle Drop-Off event this past Saturday on May 11th. The event was a huge success and saw almost 260 cars drive through. We're still working on getting the final numbers from our vendors. I will provide those details after we receive them as soon as we get them. On Wednesday, the 8th, we hosted an All About Compost event, which was a panel discussion on composting in Glencoe, held in partnership with our library. Approximately 20 people attended, and it was part of the International Compost Awareness Week. We used the event to help promote the newly implemented Waste Not Compost collection service. We have not had a regular meeting since the last board meeting. Our next meeting will be on the 28th, where we will discuss the comprehensive plan and our future plans for summer activities. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that report. The next report is the aforementioned Council for Inclusion and Community. Trustee Scott is our representative on that.
Thank you. The Council for Inclusion and Community met on Wednesday, May 8th, and the Council discussed subcommittee work that took place over the past month. The Integrating Community Feedback Subcommittee, which is working to collect and analyze community feedback data about council events and Glencoe as a welcoming and inclusive community, discussed the concept of developing short, non-scientific survey questions that could be periodically disseminated through the village's communication channels and continuing post-event surveys to gain participant feedback. The Events Subcommittee shared that Writers Theater is working on the concept of Food Truck Fridays during their production of The Hot Wing King during the summer months. The subcommittee shared an idea to consider hosting Mandala South Asian Performing Arts, a singing group who recently performed together with gospel singers at the University of Chicago. The subcommittee shared that representatives from the Family Action Network approached the council about the concept for a potential partnership to host a future fan event at Writers Theater. The council also discussed upcoming events at the library relating to Pride Month, and that the council was asked to help host a craft table at a Library Pride Month event. The library also asked if the council was interested in co-sponsoring a separate event for Transgender Day of Visibility in June to commemorate Transgender Day of Visibility in June, and the council determined that it did not have enough information about the request to make a decision regarding participation and would therefore decline this year. The Communications Subcommittee discussed the guiding principles that the council previously established for council posts on the village's social media channels and reviewed draft posts for June and July. Our next meeting will be either June 5th or June 12th, to be determined very soon.
Thanks for that report. Let me just take 30 seconds to say, as the public comments earlier showed, there was a little kerfuffle, good word, at the last Council for Inclusion and Community meeting. And I just want to make it clear that the village's position, the village board's position is, what we're going for is that the members of our boards and commission will treat our residents who come before them with courtesy and respect. The members of our boards and commissions are volunteers. They're citizens of Glencoe. And we expect that when the public engages with them at meetings and afterwards, that the public will treat our board members with civility and respect. And we're going to do everything we can going forward to ensure that that happens. So, and with that, and I want to thank the public when they come in for participating, and I particularly want to thank all of our board and commission members. We need them, and we appreciate the contributions that they make. Okay. Next report is the Preservation Commission. Our trustee Onderdunk is our representative on that. Trustee Onderdunk.
Okay. The Preservation Commission met on Tuesday, May 7th. A demolition permit for 341 Lincoln Avenue was filed. This is one of the oldest homes in Glencoe, and it is an honorary historical landmark. The commission spoke with an owner of the property and discussed its history back to the early 2000s when it was most recently purchased. The owner explained that the costs of renovation were excessive and surpassed what the owners believed they would need to do upon its purchase. The commission also discussed demolition permits for 200 Hazel and 5 Blair Avenue, both of which were not historically not historically recognized, but are points of interest for the commission. No action was taken on these items. Excuse me. Chairman Peter Van Vetchen presented a list of mid-century modern homes in the community that have the potential to be historically recognized based on the architects and their structural or cultural significance. He proposed that the commissioners survey those homes for further future discussion. Additionally, the commission discussed a recommendation that the village engage a consultant to conduct a restoration assessment of the Frank Lloyd Wright Ravine Bluffs markers that are in poor condition. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the commission is June 4th at 5:30 in Village Hall.
Okay, thanks for that report. Don't leave. Our hardest working trustee, Trustee Onderdunk, is also our representative on the Tree Commission.
Yes. Okay, well, the Tree Commission did not meet. We only meet every other month, so we'll see you next time.
Okay, that concludes the reports of our various committees. So the next item on the agenda is reports of officers, and the first category is the village manager's report. And I'll ask our village manager, Phil Corrali, to tell us about that.
Mr. President, thank you. Thanks to the board for a few minutes of indulgence here on the village manager's report. The first item is I'd like to welcome Shauna Richardson from the Illinois section of the American Water Works Association, as well as ISAWWA Board Chair Melissa Olnick. I see you both there. Who are both joining us to present the village with the Gold Level Water Ambassador Award for 2023. Water Plant Superintendent Alex Urbancic is also here. If you want to step forward for a moment, just tell us a little bit about it. We'd love to hear more.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us. Melissa and I are here on behalf of the Illinois section of American Water Works Association to present the Village of Glencoe with the Gold Level Water Ambassador Award. The Illinois section American Water Works Association provides resources for education of safe and sustainable water. We have 2,400 members across the state of Illinois and over 50,000 members in our association globally. The ISAWWA Water Ambassador Program was created 3 years ago to improve public perception, knowledge, and consumer education of the water industry. We are accomplishing this by presenting new communication platforms of educational and promotional content that is relevant, engaging, and consistent among participants.
So the Water Ambassador Program is broken up into 3 standards. It's the bronze level, the silver level, and the gold level. And how communities can move up to these levels is based on the frequency and mode of communication that they use to their communities. And so right now this year, ISAWWA is proud to be awarding 21 gold level Water Ambassador Awards and 1 silver level. And with that, we are proud to be awarding the Village of Glencoe their first gold level Water Ambassador Award. So we want to thank the Village of Glencoe for all of their efforts in educating your public about the total water system and your continued efforts in maintaining safe and sustainable water to your community. Thank you.
We're going to take a picture.
Okay.
Let me say that I really appreciate that there are 2 plaques, and I think that means the good one we could put in Village Hall and the less fancy one we could put over at our water plant because no one can get in there.
I did want to just give a little more background and then acknowledge the staff who helped obtain this award. Alex Urbancic, who is our water plant superintendent, is an active member of the ISAWWA. He utilizes his membership to stay involved in the water community, pursue educational opportunities for himself and his staff, and keep up to date on regulations in the industry. Alex's dedication to his job and the industry is reflected in this award. Alex is also very engaged with our residents to help answer their questions on our water system, and more importantly, relative to water quality, which often brings a lot of questions, especially as we hear a lot about things like PFAS and lead. He takes pride in the drinking water the village provides And through all this, he understands that education about our water system plays a key role in maintaining this high standard. As we were contemplating how we got to this point, it was good for us to remember that Trustee Mealopoulos took note of the very significant efforts that the village has undertaken over these last several years and suggested that we apply for the Water Ambassador Award. Sammy Hansel, our communications manager, and Alex sat down earlier this year to review all the educational opportunities over the past year through our website, publications, social media, and we were surprised to see that we already met the standard. So a collective thanks to Alex, Sammy for their collective education outreach efforts, and of course to Trustee Mealopoulos for bringing the opportunity to our attention. And thank you to Shauna and to Melissa for taking time out of your schedule to be here tonight. We really do appreciate it very much. All right. Okay. I have the next item is something that I'm going to have Public Safety Director Sean Loughran come to the microphone to give a brief update. But we've talked a lot this evening about the Public Safety Department and policing. This week, that's particularly appropriate as we celebrate National Police Week. Created in 1962 by President John F. Kennedy, National Police Week seeks to raise awareness of and deepen our appreciation for the critically important and often dangerous work that police officers do day in and day out to keep communities around the country safe. As such, it's an appropriate time to consider the deeply meaningful work that our public safety officers do each day to keep this community safe. As we all know, Glencoe is unique in that our officers are cross-trained as police officers, firefighters, and EMS officers. This cross-training continues a proud tradition that started in 1954 when the department was created. The community reveres the Public Safety Department and the work they do, especially as it relates to policing. Importantly, in our community-wide survey conducted in 2023, 98% of residents surveyed gave a rating of very satisfied or satisfied with the feeling of safety in Glencoe. On nearly every satisfaction question, the Public Safety Department ranked above 95% as it related to being very satisfied or satisfied with the services of the department. That said, residents did note their desire that the village continue to focus on efforts to prevent serious crime, enhance visibility of public safety in our neighborhoods, and ensure there are efforts to prevent lesser crimes. Public Safety Director Sean Loughran's here to share with the board a brief report on the recent work of our department, specifically tonight as it relates to police activity. He'll outline how our officers work locally and regionally to combat crime, and how the thoughtful and appropriate use of technology helps our officers do this important work. Chief?
Thank you, sir. Try not to break this. If you would like to set the 3-minute mark, I would not object. I know you prefer brevity. So I will attempt to speak from a 10,000-foot level generally, and then also I'd like to tell everyone a story, if I may. That story will illustrate some of those things that we do specifically each and every case. As I was taught of how to manage crime and review crime, I was taught the CompStat model. And the CompStat model is essentially analysis of statistics. That comes from a much larger municipality where you have a great deal of data. The concern when you have a smaller municipality such as Glencoe is you have very minimal data. The concern then is when you compare year over year, or you compare watch over watch, or hour versus hour, is you run the risk of going from a 0 to a 1. Which then reflects to a 100% increase in crime, and therefore panic ensues. You also have to consider when one of the crime-fighting tactics, or tools, I should say, technology is mapping technology, which we use in just about every other aspect of village government. When you look at a map of a location that is less than 4 square miles, and you see one icon that appears to cover 4 square blocks, it causes alarm. And that is that one symbol, or that symbol of that one incident, again, can cause alarm. So that said, I have to always caution people whenever we discuss statistics or whenever we discuss crime and understand that when you go from a 2 to a 3, yes, it is an increase. Yes, it is not acceptable, but you have to take all of that in perspective when you're comparing it, when you're comparing data. That said, the COMSTAT model, the concept is analysis, plans, and results. So you analyze your problem. You attempt to determine what is the root cause of that problem, and you determine if there are any outliers. You compare that perhaps to other communities, and you compare that as far as stats go, and then you develop a plan. How are we going to decrease that crime? Because remember, the ultimate goal is zero crimes and zero enforcement. You use enforcement and use other means, so as crime would go up, potentially your enforcement might go up. In some way, shape, or form, your activity might go up. So you are always balancing that. And crime is on a spectrum. Often it moves up and down. Sometimes you can clearly identify what the cause is. Sometimes you cannot, because we are not mind readers. I can say with one time in my life, I could be a mind reader. And that was because we had a wire, we were overhearing criminals on a telephone conversation and could hear that our mere presence decreased crime. So I was, in essence, you were a mind reader. So that said, analyzing crime in Glencoe, as you all know, we have the benefit of, with a small community, not having necessarily violent crime. That's wonderful. It allows us to focus on other things that directly impact every single person. Quality of life issues, potentially, but property-related crime. And that is what most people are concerned with, and that is really the principal concern, are burglaries. For the purpose of definition, a burglary is when someone enters a structure or someone enters a vehicle, they're within to commit a theft or a felony, they're within. So that is what we're concerned with. That is what we do and we combat very, very well. And how do we do that? We combat that through, as mentioned and as highlighted in our earlier adventure with the Vice President, mutual assistance by asking for assistance from other agencies nearby us, and through the use of technology. In my story, I'll tell you specifically about those two applications. So recently we had a burglary that took place. It took place on Harbor near the lake. It was actually one of 3 burglaries that took place for the entire year. As I mentioned, one instance is too many. But we are on pace for a significant decrease in burglaries over last year. That one incident was actually discovered by what we call a house check. Members of public safety or residents can elect for a house check if you're out of town for any amount of time as a courtesy, as we always refer back to that concierge style or level of attention that we can afford to because of our decreased amount of crime. We offer that as a service to members to check on residences, check on locations if we know they're going to be out of town. One of our members checked on a location on Harbor and found that they appeared to be the victim of a burglary. After making sure the location was safe, we made contact with the homeowner. Now, unfortunately, the homeowner was not present. They were out of state. So that delayed the initial investigation because we did not know exactly what was missing from that location. But after processing the scene, our officers immediately then began to canvass the location, canvass the block, asking every single resident nearby, do you have private video, ring doorbells, that sort of stuff that we can harvest and we can combine a case. That is typically the first step, is the canvass. Using that canvass, we saw some vehicles that were recognized on the block by our detectives. Now, our detectives are detective lieutenant, as I discussed earlier. Our detectives are exceptional, absolutely exceptional. These 2 guys and their lieutenants, the amount of work they do, and more importantly, the passion that they show, they are great. So they see cars. They see 2 cars that are on the block, and they recognize those cars because those cars interconnected, working through an interconnection with other agencies in discussion of suspicious vehicles that have been spotted in proximity to other reported crimes in neighboring communities. They recognize these vehicles. They know these individuals to be, they suspected these individuals to be part of a South American crime group, which is the 2 types of burglaries, or typically the 2 types of groups that we are victim to. We are often traveling crime groups, which are individuals that typically will do ruse burglaries, scam burglaries, so flim-flam you in the door and then come in and steal your stuff. or sometimes just forcibly entry, or South American crime groups, theft crime groups. Those are individuals that gain entry to our country and literally perform crimes nationwide. They'll move into an area, commit a crime, and move on. They recognize these vehicles as exactly that. Using that information, they then performed a search into the FLOC system, the FLOC automated license plate reader system, which we as a village elected to participate in as part of a net of cameras, the automated license plate readers, in 2022. That investment has been absolutely paid back their weight in gold. They entered that information and found they were moving in sequence together, working together in caravan into the village, but then they left. Using also that information, they linked them immediately to a number of reported crimes in surrounding areas. Most specifically, Wilmette, South Barrington, Western Springs, and Elk Grove. They were spotted within proximity of these reported burglaries. Not enough to make an arrest, but certainly enough to continue the investigation. Our members are serving as actually the lead and two principal members of the the NORTAF Burglary Task Force. The Burglary Task Force, not unlike today's adventure, is a number of dedicated investigators that form together whenever they have what they call an activation. They come together and they can throw 10 detectives on an incident, 15 detectives on an incident. That way, individuals can work together. They did exactly that, and they activated this task force. They located the vehicle, and by use of a judge's order, they then began a surveillance through technological means. They conducted that surveillance and showed definitively that those individuals in those cars were planning another burglary in South Barrington. Then as they placed them under direct surveillance, they observed them actually filming the location, following the residents of that location, and it was pretty clear what they were up to. So they continued their surveillance and observed them actually commit the crime and placed them into custody without incident. And here's where it gets interesting. They arrest these individuals right then and there. One of the offenders is wearing the watch, as taken in the burglary from here, on his wrist. They found a handbag that also was property from the location there. And they linked them to additional burglaries as well. To date, they have charged them, let's see, I want to make sure I get this correct. They've charged them with burglaries in South Barrington, Glencoe, and Wilmette. I've just received, and follow up to that, they conducted a search warrant on 2 of their residences in Chicago shortly thereafter, recovering more personal property, more burglary proceeds from other crimes. That investigation is ongoing, and I feel very confident that they're going to be circling back and rearresting them for more crimes. That technology, the FLOC cameras, allowed most recent incident that took place at the Walgreens, right down the road, allowed our lieutenant and our officers that were working on midnights to interrupt that burglary within 42 seconds of them smashing that front, preventing any theft from taking place. They were alerted by their phones and by the computer that's in the car that a stolen automobile had entered into Glencoe. They reacted, they located the vehicle and arrived so fast that the offenders were running from the location and tripped actually, and they wound up getting him out of town. Made their best to arrest the offenders, but quite frankly, we would not activate a motor vehicle pursuit in that case, given the circumstances. That said, it allowed that to happen. 2 days ago, those FLOC cameras allowed those same 2 detectives monitor a FLOC alert. I actually like this story a great deal. They monitored a FLOC alert of a stolen vehicle traveling down 41. Hearing that, they jumped in their car and they went down 41 and they pulled over on the side of the road, anticipating this car to pass them. He did. He passed them, and they alerted neighboring communities, hey, we got this stolen car with a FLOC hit traveling in this direction. Lincolnwood, also hearing that information, as relayed by our detectives, had 2 marked cars on 41 as well, and they attempted to effect a traffic stop. The offender attempted to make good his escape and ultimately was apprehended by our detectives and a 3rd burglary task force detective from Skokie in Skokie. That offender, the gun that he had in his car, the stolen car that he had taken from Lincolnwood, proceeds from numerous armed robberies in the surrounding communities, to include Chicago, Skokie, Lincolnwood, all made possible because of those FLOC cameras. So Village Manager Crawley and myself, we always talk about how can we message, how can we get that information out. This is an incredible investment. This is an incredible investment in technology, an incredible investment in time and personnel as we have embedded our personnel into these key positions, into these task forces, to not only make our small agency more powerful, but also assist other agencies in surrounding areas, because crime has no border. Criminals, typically, when I first became a police officer, criminals would remain regional. However, now, with accessibility of transportation, they will go everywhere. So we have to think in terms of not just in our small community, but our neighboring communities and extended communities. I could not be more proud of their achievements. Just to highlight this one last thing, and again, I'll wrap it up for your benefit, sir. Just the burglary task force alone has performed 21 arrests from January 1st. A number of you have received briefs on those in our Friday report. Just for comparison, again, because we talk about statistics, our detectives will typically make about 25 arrests after follow-up cases per year. And we've made 21 arrests just from these burglaries and their investigations that they're performing each and every day. Again, they're meat eaters. They're fantastic. So I hope just this one individual specific story with specific highlights can kind of outline how we conduct business in their office. And as ever, I would say to the public, and I would say generally, if the public has questions of how we do things, my door is always open. I met with somebody this week, had some questions about how we do things, and meeting with somebody next week as well, too. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for the chief while he's at the podium?
No.
Sean, thank you.
No, my pleasure.
I think what we've often talked about, as you articulated, is how to storytell around the impact and the importance, not only of the technology, but really of the boots on the street. Our detective bureau in particular has just tremendous talent and skill that they have applied. It isn't a story we talk about enough in the community. I think people appreciate it based off of what we've seen in surveys. But there are sometimes opportunities for us to do more to tell about the work of the Public Safety Department, especially as people are anxious about crime generally in the area. What does it mean? If something happens, what happens next? How does the Public Safety Department deal with that? So that is an effort that we're going to try to undertake a bit more. There have been really good conversations, I think, that the department has been able to get into with the community in informal settings. They have a coffee with the top event once a month, and there will be an opportunity again tomorrow morning at Dunkin' Donuts for Cop on a Rooftop, although no one goes on the rooftop anymore. There's a lot of liability that ties with that. But, stopping by and having the chance to ask a question or talk to our officers make themselves available all the time. But it is sometimes a question that deserves more answers, so we're going to work on better ways to do that. Thanks.
Let me just say,
Yes, sir.
so what he said, plus and briefly, what the Glencoe Public Safety Department has managed to do is have our residents feel that public safety officers are their friends, they're helpful, and at the same time, we've been able to communicate to the bad guys that you don't want to mess with Glencoe. That's not easy to do, those two things at the same time. And we are so grateful that we're able, your department, your guys are able to do that.
Thank you, sir.
You can put your feet up one of these days. I support that. Right? Isn't that something? That was the shortest 3 minutes I've ever just a couple quick last items. Sammy, you able to just share? We have a couple of special events coming up over the next few weeks, and Sammy's just going to walk through those real briefly.
Hello, everyone. Memorial Day is coming up on Monday, May 27th at 11 a.m. in Veterans Memorial Park. The rain location will be Takeoff Center should we have bad weather.
We're working in conjunction with the Glencoe Historical Society to program that event. Many of you will be participating in reading parts of the program as well, honoring those Glencoe residents who have died in service of our country. The next event coming up is Coffee with the Board. Village Manager Crowley has mentioned previously the revival of this program. The goal is to provide opportunities for the public to interact with elected officials as well as for each organization to share important information directly to residents. At the staff level, it was decided to run this program alongside other well-attended events in Glencoe to meet the community where they already are. Future events will occur quarterly. The first event will occur at the library's Ice Cream Social on June 8th in Wyman Green, as well as indoors at the library should rain occur. Board members from our board, the library, Park District, School District will all be present from 12 to 1:30 at a booth at the event, and more info is to come on social media and e-news as we approach that event on what exactly to expect. More information about these events and others that are occurring this summer are on the village's website. That's all I got.
We're excited about Coffee with the Boards. Actually, that name is probably going to change. We're trying to come up with something kitschy, since it's not always just going to be a coffee opportunity, but we're working with our community partners on that, so we're looking forward to that program getting started again. The last thing on my report is one that I don't really prepare anything for, and I apologize for extemporaneous speaking. But I wanted to share some thanks and gratitude to a specific employee who has, over the last probably 6 to 12 months, been talking with me fairly regularly about some work-life balance, some questions about commuting time, some thoughts about what's the best blend of things, and I kind of didn't listen because my sense of it was that if I didn't accept it, it wouldn't necessarily be a real conversation. But I have the sad news to share that our longtime employee Sharon Tanner has informed me that she has taken a position that is much closer to her home, that affords her some pretty substantial savings of time, and allows her to put her substantial skill set to work in another local government. So Sharon was the first employee in my team that I had the opportunity to hire after I started. She just celebrated 9 years with us here in Glencoe, and Sharon has been pretty busy in those 9 years, and I don't think I could sit down and list out all of the things that she has worked on, all of the programs that she has been a part of, all of the work products that bear her stamp, because we'd be here all night. But the simple truth is, Sharon has been a tremendous benefit and a tremendous asset to this organization, to our staff team. She's been a tremendous asset and friend to me, that has helped me get through complicated things like, I don't know, a global pandemic and all of the unknowns that came along with that, but that's really, not the least of it. It's been a tremendous privilege for me to have had the opportunity to learn from Sharon, to work with Sharon, and it's been a tremendous opportunity for this organization and this community to have benefited from what she has given of herself in her time and her talent. It'll be a different place without you, and I hope you know how deeply we appreciate what you've done in your various roles. The fact that you always raised your hand, you always did so with a smile, you always managed to tell me when I was wrong without telling me I was wrong, but somehow I figured it out on my own, which is a talent in and of itself. But you will be sorely missed. You are a professional through and through. I know only good things are ahead of you in your career, and I feel very privileged to have had these 9 years to work together with you. And we'll be saying goodbye to Sharon sometime by the end of this month, but she'll be her impact will be with us well past that time. And but just want to say thank you to you for all you've done, and what we would not have been able to do without you is actually the longer list. So I just appreciate everything. Thank you, Sharon.
Briefly, in behalf of the board, it has been our pleasure to work with you. We've appreciated your advice, your smarts, your ability to work with the other employees in the village, your ability to work with residents to make all of us look good. I hope that we treated you as well as you deserved. I think we did, but there was one thing we couldn't do, which was shorten the commute. If you know, Glencoe is an expensive town. I wish we could provide housing for everybody, but then we'd be like Pullman, so I guess we can't. So I just, you know, but life for working moms is 100 times more challenging it is for men like, say, me, who, you know, contributed very little on that. And so, but anyway, I would have thought you were losing your you know, mind if you didn't leave to improve the commute, which has been brutal. You've been here for nights, you've been here for night meetings, long hours. Anyway, we're lucky to have had you. Your new place is really lucky to get you, and we're going to do our best to soldier on without you, but it won't be easy. I think that concludes the village manager's report. So next item is the village president's report. Before I get to the official items on the report, I want to report one sad event, which is the recent passing on May 1st of Ellis Goodman. He's a longtime resident of Glencoe. He was a tremendous supporter of civic and cultural institutions in the village and near it, including the Chicago Botanic Garden, which we claim as part of Glencoe, even though technically it's not, and Writers Theater, which has transformed the village. He was a friend and supporter of the golf club, a benefactor of the croquet club, which is at home at the golf club. He was our friend. He worked tirelessly for the village. He lived a life of consequence. I am privileged to have known him, and he'll be missed. Okay. On the agenda for the village president's report, the first item is appointments of village positions and village commissions. We've published this online, so the board has seen it. In general, it's kind of boring, you know, who's the village marshal? We could guess, but no one actually pays attention to that except when we have a parade, maybe. Yeah. Who's the village collector? So rather than read that, it's been published online, it's been circulated to the board, and unless there are members here, I see one, we're reappointing folks, we're appointing and reappointing to village committees and commissions. One of those appointments is Raphael Guzman, who's here. Is there anybody else who's being appointed? I don't see anybody. Okay, in that event, and noting that Raphael's here and is about to get bequeathed a second term at the as head of Council for Inclusion and Community, which used to look like a good job, but maybe after this week, not so much. Is there a motion to approve the listed appointments to village officials and also committees and commissions?
So moved. Second.
Do we need a roll call on this?
No, it's a voice vote.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries and the appointments are made. The next item on the agenda is a proclamation recognizing and celebrating the life of Glencoe resident Aileen Fishbein on her 100th birthday. I know she was hoping to come. I'm sorry to say she had a fall. I think she's going to be okay, but she's not here. Is there anyone here for Mrs. Fishbein? In that event, since we don't want to talk to ourselves, the proclamation has been published to our residents. It's been reviewed by village board members. Is there a motion to approve the proclamation for Mrs. Fishbein?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The third proclamation is a proclamation declaring May 19th to 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week in the village of Glencoe. We have a few of our Public Works employees are here. I note our Public Works Director had to leave. That proclamation has been published to our residents, circulated to the board. Is there a motion to approve the Public Works proclamation?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next proclamation is consideration of a proclamation declaring June 2024 as Pride Month in the village of Glencoe. I know that Trustee Rubin's going to want to speak on that. I would also note that the proclamation has been published online and circulated to the board. And Trustee Rubin, do you have a few words you want to say?
Thank you. Unfortunately, I cannot speak more eloquently or passionately about this than our first speaker tonight at public comment. So I will simply add that having the privilege of being a former Council of Inclusion and Community member myself, and knowing the work that you all do, and this one in particular, this issue in particular that we're complaining about, Glencoe stands against hate and discrimination, full stop. And just as importantly, we stand for inclusion and being welcome. And that all people should be supported in living authentically. And as I said, I could go on, but the first speaker said it better and more passionately and more eloquently than I ever could. So that's that.
Trustee Rubin, thanks for those comments. Is there a motion to approve the Pride Month proclamation?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the last proclamation is declaring May 2024 as Invasive Species Awareness Month in the village of Glencoe. We've circulated this, published it online, circulated to the board. I don't see any invasive species in the room. Although I think we're all going to find out.
I don't know where Lexus Shippers
Yeah, I think we're all going to find out soon about a particular kind of invasive species on their 17-year visit. Is there a motion to approve the invasive species proclamation?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks very much. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes items that have been published online for the community and reviewed by the board individually or together, individually or together as part of our committee of the whole. We don't think they warrant any further public discussion. This has been reviewed by the board, published to the community. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. On this, I believe we need a roll call, so let's have that.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Mealopoulos.
Yes.
Trustee Underdunk.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Consent agenda is passed. Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes the consent agenda and those items. The next item on the agenda is regular business. Okay. The next item is an ordinance for issuance of bonds not to exceed $3 million for various public works improvements such as storm sewers and the like, sidewalks. And I will ask Deputy Village Manager Nikki Larson to present.
Okay. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay. Go ahead. All right. Good evening, Village Board. Just to kick us off, the village held a bond auction sale this morning. And to get us started, I'll just run through the timeline of how we got here today. In April of 2021, the village issued a referendum question that was subsequently approved by voters to allow the village to issue $10 million to fund a variety of capital improvement projects. That following June, the village issued the first installment of these bonds. We issued $7 million. And from July of 21 to present, we have spent down those bond proceeds on a variety of projects, including street improvements, stormwater improvements, sidewalk, and street lighting. That brings us to today in March of 2024. This second installment was anticipated in our 10-year CIP plan. So the $3 million is the remaining authority that we have from April 2021. Starting in March of this year, we did take the stormwater project out to bid that is going to be funded with these bonds. And we also passed a reimbursement resolution anticipating that the engineering work and construction would be commenced prior to the receipt of bond proceeds in June of 2024. So this morning we issued the second installment of bonds. Before you is the consideration of the formal bond ordinance for your approval. We do anticipate, if the board approves the bond sale this evening, that the bond closing will happen in June, and that will allow us to receive the bond proceeds and also reimburse the village for any expenditures that take place from the time the contract was approved in March through the time that we receive the bond funds. And at this time, I'm going to call up Anthony Maselli from Spear Financial. Spear is our financial advisor, and they ran the auction this morning, so I'll have Anthony give a review of how it went.
Thank you, Nikki. Good evening, Village Board. So as Nikki had mentioned this morning, we conducted the competitive bond sale for the village's $3 million general obligation bonds. Through the open auction competitive sale, we received 22 bids from 5 bidders, the best bid coming from Raymond James at a 3.8217%. As you'll see through this competitive open auction process with the 22 bids, Raymond James came in with 1 bid, aggressively several basis points below all of the rest of the competition there, with the remaining bids, numbers 2 through 5, ranging from a 3.85 all the way up to a 3.96%. So we move, after acceptance tonight, to a closing on June 4th. With that, we'll have a project deposit after all costs of $3,526.05. I'll just mention, as part of this process and leading to the demand we saw today, the village's bond rating was affirmed at AAA by Standard & Poor's. Important part of any bond issue is when you get that credit rating. Just mention that some of the things mentioned in the report by Standard & Poor's when they did affirm your AAA rating was your long run of positive operating results, which they expect to continue into the future, and your very strong financial management assessment score. All of this on top of the strong socioeconomic factors within the village. So, successful sale. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the bond sale or the financing numbers.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay. As I mentioned, at each of your places is the updated bond ordinance. There was a draft ordinance that was included in this evening's agenda packet. The ordinance in front of you has been updated for the results of the bond sale today, anticipating the acceptance of the competitive bid from Raymond James.
Anything else before we, okay, are there any questions, comments? I mean, you know, it was lovely for all those years when the interest rates were lower, but we live in the real world. And I'm glad we got as good a bid as we could get. And with that, is there a motion to approve the ordinance with respect to this $3 million of bonds?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Let's have a roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listner.
Yes.
Trustee Mealopoulos. Trustee Underdunk.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries, so bonds are approved. The next two items, we're going to take them in stages, concern what used to be known as the Hoover Estate. The first of those is consideration of a revised final plat, development agreement amendments, and transfer assumption agreement for the Forest Edge subdivision. And I'll ask our planner, Rich McGowan, and our village attorney, Steve Elrod, to present. Rich.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rich McGowan. I'm a planner with the Development Services Department here with the village. I'm going to briefly bring you up to speed with the Forest Edge subdivision. You all may recall that in October of 2020, the village board had approved the final plat and a development agreement. This consisted of 29 single-family lots in the RB zoning district. Since then, the final plat and development agreement were never recorded. So bringing it up to speed to where we are today, as you all have likely noticed, construction has not begun. But after the village board approval in 2020, there has since been a very minor lot line adjustment. And so no zoning or subdivision nonconformities were created as a result of this. Additionally, the village engineer has determined that it will not have a significant impact on the stormwater management system. So bringing it up a little bit more up to speed, recently the village has been informed that the current owner intends to sell the subdivision to a new buyer in the coming months. The prospective buyers fully intend to develop the subdivision in compliance with the revised final plat that you all have seen in your agenda packet. Additionally, the development agreement will stay in place with a few minor amendments to reflect that the individual lots will now be individually sold to home builders and owners for development. And lastly, I'd like to also note that, as I had mentioned earlier, the village engineer determined that this minor lot line adjustment, revised final plat, is not going to have a significant impact on the stormwater management system. The stormwater management system does remain in conformance with the plan presented at the 2020 meetings, which was approved around October of 2020. And just to tie into the next agenda item, I will also add that the village has contracted with ERA to provide on-site engineering services. And that will tie into the next agenda item, but they will be doing on-site engineering services as well as engineering inspections. So with that, I'll turn it over to you all with any questions.
Yeah, let me just, this is kind of complicated. That's the overview. What's complicated is not the substance. What's complicated is the process. And I ask you to bear with us and trust that we have put this in a very deliberate order to accommodate all of the parties with whom we have been dealing in this matter. The first agenda item that was referred to actually approves 5 different things, and they approve them in a very specific order. We are first approving are calling for the approval of a revised plat of subdivision. That accounts for this change in property line. You all have been briefed on that. We're doing that with the existing property owner. It's their deal. The existing property owner endured the litigation with the neighbor and resolved the matter with the neighbor. They are setting the property up so that it can be sold to the new property owner. So we are approving a revised plat of subdivision with the existing property owner, and concurrently a first amendment to the development agreement that reflects that change in the plat of subdivision. That's with the first property owners. Those are the first 2 things. Then we're approving a transferee assumption agreement. This enables the new property owner to assume all of the obligations that are set forth in the development agreement and relieves the existing property owner of those obligations. We are then approving a second amendment to the development agreement, and this is with the new property owner. They are no longer doing a master build where they're going to build model homes. We had all sorts of provisions about the one builder builds all. Rather, they're going to sell individual lots and allow for a diverse development on each of the lots. So we had to make some minor tweaks to the development agreement. The second amendment to the development agreement is actually with the new prospective property owner. And then there is an easement that allows for the connection to the village's storm sewer. That's all in the first agenda item. And Mr. President, I would suggest that the village consider that first agenda item, and then we'll talk about briefly the engineering services.
Thanks for those reports. I'm going to really dumb this down and say, before I got here, and I remember the meeting, which was really long, the village concluded what it was doing about the Hoover estate, and they sort of did all of this, and it got approved, and then the project sort of stopped by, pandemic, whatever. And now it's back, and there are not really huge material changes. So the village has already done this. We've got our lawyers have figured out how we can do it, and basically we're just taking the next step. So with that, is there a motion to approve item B, which Rich and Steve have described?
Motion to approve item B.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. We'll have a roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Mealopoulos.
Yes.
Trustee Underdunk.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
The motion carries. So now we're on item C. I think Rich said he's already covered that in terms of the engineering agreement. So it's Steve's turn to explain how he's figured out how to do it.
Well, we prepared a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute that agreement.
Okay. Is there a motion to authorize the agreement?
So moved.
It's been moved, and I'll
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
No, this is a roll call.
Oh, excuse me. Roll call. Please.
Trustee Listener, or excuse me, Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Mealopoulos.
Yes.
Trustee Underdunk.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries. So it's taken a while, but we've now taken steps to go forward with this. So I think that concludes all of our regular business. I understand that one of Mrs. Fishbein's daughters is here. I went to Central School with Ellen, prehistoric times, you know. But before you got here, we approved a proclamation celebrating the life of your mom on her 100th birthday. So, and we have that here for you. Yeah. So, the village board wishes Mrs. Fishbein well, and congratulations on her birthday. So that concludes our regular agenda. Is there any other business for the open session of the village board meeting? I don't hear any, so that we're going to have a closed session. So I'd ask for a motion to move into closed session pursuant to Section 2C6 and Section 2C21 of the Open Meetings Act. Is there a motion to move to closed session?
So moved.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. I think we need a roll call.
Trustee Hallwax?
Yes.
Trustee Listener?
Yes.
Trustee Mealopoulos? Trustee Underdunk?
Yes.
Trustee Rubin?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
The motion carries, so let's head downstairs.